Hello and welcome to Analysis. I am Deji Badimasi. With less than 2 days to the National Convention of the All Progressives Congress (APC), President Muhammadu Buhari and governors elected on the party's platform have resolved to work towards the emergence of consensus candidates to ensure rancor-free process. That's a rancor-free process, I should say. Now, after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari earlier in the week, Chairman of the Progressives Governors Forum and Governor of Kebbi State, Atiku Bagudu, said the governors have resolved to support whoever the president supports at the convention and that they have also agreed to support any process that would lead to a consensus. Meanwhile, there are actually reports that the stakeholders have even agreed on certain candidates for all the offices of the National Working Committee of the party. The stakeholders, however, said any aspirants against the consensus option could choose to test their popularity at the convention ground, and of course, they are free to do so. Beyond that, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the leadership of the party to refund the money paid for nomination forms now by aspirants who have decided to drop out of the race for the party national chairmanship. Now, joining me on the program to discuss this further is Adeyemi Saka, who is a political affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us on the program, Mr. Saka. Let me start by asking you what you make. Of course, this would not be coming as a surprise at all. The consensus option has always been the much preferred when it comes to party conventions like this. Are you surprised that the APC has settled for a consensus this time?
No, at all, I'm not, because if APC had not settled for the consensus arrangement, the party was facing imminent implosion because there are a lot of interest going into the convention, a lot of, who wants to pick which ticket, which chairman will favor my presidential ambition, which chairman will favor me as a governor. So you had a lot of, intrigues, coming into play, and the party could, if we can cast our mind back a bit, the face-off between Governor Abdulolo of Niger State and Mimala Boni of Yobe State, the leadership tussle that was not, turned to a family affair. You saw all these things, and going into the convention with a lot of people, with a lot of contenders, with a lot of interest, we probably will spell doom for the party. Because rather than move forward to start thinking of how to probably retain the presidency or control of the country at the center, they probably will be busy trying to mend fences, and a lot of people might just go working against the interest of the party, and that might cost them victory at 2023 polls.
Now, how important is that decision, that directive by the president, that all those who are running for chairmanship position, who have actually decided to drop out of the race now, should be refunded their money? I mean, this is something we've not seen before. So how important is that?
No, we've seen it before. I think we can say the APC is copying or working on the template of the PDP. PDP came up with this consensus arrangement. Consensus arrangement, I think, was well true up.
No, I'm talking about refunding money now to those who had. If you can hear me, I'm talking about refunding money to those who had picked nomination forms. I can hear you. So,
but it's nothing compared to what they've done, because it's not just about picking the nomination form. Those guys have expended so much when it comes to publicity. They've gone around the state, the country, campaigning for votes. So how do you quantify their investment into it? Are you going to return that as well? Are you going to ask them to come up for the bill to National Secretariat?
But at least they're not losing everything.
Make such refunds.
But at least they're not losing everything.
But 20 million compared to what these guys have spent in the last 6 months campaigning, moving from state to state, zone to zone, it's unfair to me.
Let me ask you this.
Thing about this.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Why has the chairmanship position of a party become so important? I'm talking about, maybe say, a party like the APC or the PDP. Why has it become so important that even a senator is willing to forgo his position in the Senate to contest the chairmanship of the party?
Well, whether you like it or not, you have the fate of political destinies of 36 people in your hands. You have the political destiny of two people in your hands. That's the president and the vice president. That is 38.
But
Now look at the
excuse me,
309
that is
legislative
supposing the
hands. So
chairman
you're like a
alone.
kingdom.
But that is supposing the chairman alone decides the fate of those people, as in terms of when it comes to, say, nominations. Now, the fact is that the chairman does not decide who gets a ticket and who doesn't get.
Okay, I'm coming to answer that. Now, I think it's up to since 1999 the party chairman or party leaders, the party chairman are not the leaders of the party. The likes of during the era, is it the top republic that had the likes of Shehu Shagari, SM, is it Akile, SM Akile was the leader of the party. So, leading towards that, a leader of the party can determine the direction of the party. And I'll cite instances. President Muhammadu Buhari now said he's endorsing somebody as the consensus, his own candidate, and every other governors fell in line and they are following him. If the party chairman, if he's actually playing his role and is allowed to assume his role as the leader of the party, if he shows preference for a candidate, trust me, nobody wants to lose out. And for me, that is how it's going to look like. And another interesting thing to these endorsements or this argument by President Muhammadu Buhari, it lacks the moral grounds or to contest the choice of the governors if they probably want to come up in their state to say, okay, this is the person I'm endorsing, so the delegates in my state should follow suit. It negates the principle of internal democracy within political parties as promoted or preached by INEC, but it is what it is in Nigeria right now. So the leader of the party is very influential. It can determine if as the head of the party, the constitutional leadership of the party can decide to turn a blind eye to the misgivings of somebody and give him some preferential treatment, and the guy will keep having his way.
Now,
whether we like it or not is
go on.
Whether we like it or not, is very influential, and I probably think it has 70% influence on the decision of the National Working Committee of any political party, whether the PDP, APC, ABGA, ADC. The party chairman is important.
But at the end of the day,
the most important person.
But at the end of the day, with the president's important input, I mean, the president, of course, would definitely have a controlling power over who the chairman is. But let me ask you, look, in the case of President Buhari, this is his last and final term. He's not contesting in the next election, so he's not going to be there when the chairman of the party begins. When the chairman of course, the chairman would definitely emerge after the 26th, but the truth is that President Buhari would not be there to work with that chairman for long. So if the APC, for instance, wins the next presidential election, you're definitely going to have a new president who is going to work with this chairman. So, and like what we have seen in the past, don't you think there are chances that if the APC, for instance, won the next election, that whoever emerges the president under the party's platform now would probably want to come up with his own chairman?
Well, it's whether we like it or not, everybody will be interested in who succeeds him, and I believe that's why President Muhammadu Buhari anointed Adam as the chair of the party.
We don't know that for sure.
We play a strong role. The strong role becomes the candidate, the flag bearer of the party, and it's like everything. It's a symbiotic relationship. So the president is interested right now. It might not be contesting, but probably will not want a party chairman that will put forward a candidate that will come and step on toes, not step into his shoes.
And how important do you think the chairmanship position is in terms of what happens in the presidential primaries of the party?
Well, I've said it earlier. If Adamu has a preferred candidate, which obviously, or the president has a preferred candidate, and he has ensured his preferred candidate for the chairmanship of the party emerge and is installed, or perhaps after this convention, that means the president's preference for the presidential candidate will emerge, because the leadership of the party naturally will want to work in line with their benefactor. So that's how I say it. So, the chairman of the APC will play a very key role in who becomes the flag bearer of the party at the next dispensation. One thing is certain: now that we have the chairman coming from the North Central, we know that we cannot have a president from North Central. That's the first role it's playing. Now that the chairman of the party is coming from the north as a region, as his own, we know that the flag bearer is coming from southern Nigeria. It probably might be southwest, southeast. It's up to APC to decide. So those are the elementary or the primary role the party chairman will play. Before he now steps into the secondary role, like consult with the president, who is your preferred candidate, or if the president has any. But the president has intel that yes, he has somebody, but was not going to mention his name. So because he doesn't want him to be eliminated, maybe after there's a substantive national working committee in place, it probably could reveal to them this is who I want. So let the party machinery and the leadership work for the emergence of that person, and so be it.
And for you, after the convention, what do you think are the challenges ahead for the APC?
Well, the greatest challenge we can list, but the greatest challenge for APC is how to convince Nigeria that it is have to be in power in office beyond May 29, 2023.
All right.
And that's what they need to set out to achieve.
All right. And we just have to wait and see how that their presidential primary goes, because that is also very crucial. But Adeyemi Saka, thank you very much for joining us on the program, and thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll take a short break now, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, it looks like we're yet to see the last of the controversial Clause 8412 of the Electoral Act. And because as things stand now, we might be in for a very long-drawn legal battle. As a matter of fact, you can rule out the possibility of this case getting up to the Supreme Court, because lawmakers in the National Assembly have expressed their dissatisfaction with the High Court in Abia State, which ordered the Attorney General of the Federation to delete the section of the Electoral Act. Now, the Act, which states that no political appointee at any level shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at any convention or congress of any political party for the purpose of nomination of candidates for any election. Now, that's what the Act states. During plenary on Wednesday, lawmakers in both chambers condemned the judgment of the court, saying it is a breach of privilege, and questioned why the National Assembly was not joined in the suit. Coming under Order 42 of the Senate Standing Orders now on personal explanation, Senator Thompson Sekibo explained that the National Assembly is empowered by virtue of its provision to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of Nigeria, which is exactly what it did with the Act. Now, for members in the lower chamber, the clause in question is directed at political appointees and not civil servants. They insisted that the court now passed a judgment on a matter which was not included in the Electoral Act passed by the National Assembly. So the two chambers have now resolved to appeal the unsatisfactory judgment to the highest level of the judiciary. And of course, that means this case is likely to get to the Supreme Court. Well, joining me on the program right now to discuss this further is Monday Ubani, who is a legal practitioner and also the chair of the Nigerian Bar Association section on section now on public section law, right? Public section law and development. I should
section say. Of public interest and development.
Section law. Of public. That's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Ubani, for joining us on the program. Let me get your take now on the position of the National Assembly on this controversial a clause of the Electoral Act. I mean, you heard what the Senate said. You heard the position of the House as well. What's your take?
Yes, thank you, Deji, once again for having me. The position of the law with regards to a decision that affects you, in which you are aggrieved, is that you can seek the leave of the court to appeal that judgment as an interested party. So I was surprised that the National Assembly was excluded in the first place at the lower court. I had expected they should have been made a party, including INEC, as an interested party, because this is the arm of government that enacted that law in which you have nullified. So I had expected that they should have been made a party. Now, in the light of the fact that they were not made a party, they are aggrieved by that decision, so they can seek leave of the court to appeal that judgment as an interested party. The law allows them to do that, and that is what I've heard they want to do in the circumstance. So, and as you rightly pointed out, this matter may likely end up at the Supreme Court, and it's for the health, as well as the health of the nation in terms of political development. Let us know whether what has been enacted by the National Assembly is at variance with the Constitution, because that is what they called it was called upon to examine. Is there any variance at all? And if there is any variance, what section of the Constitution was actually at variance with the legislated act? And then, if the Court of Appeal says the lower court is wrong, I would expect the man who is the plaintiff in the lower court to proceed to Supreme Court. There are many issues that will be contended, including the fact that whether the man himself who went to court was even qualified under the Act to have started that action, because the Constitution, the Electoral Act defines who can challenge the Electoral Act itself.
But in this case, from what my own understanding of the case is it's not as if this individual challenged. The individual, as we read, and you're a lawyer, so you would know better, he actually went to the court to seek an interpretation of that section.
Yes. Well, if you are seeking, you seek an of what the law says.
Yes.
And so he was not challenging the act, so he was seeking an interpretation. Okay, fine. There is nothing wrong in doing that. He's a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If he's a tax-paying one at that, I think he has the right to seek for a proper interpretation. But I would have thought that he would have joined the National Assembly that enacted that law. That would have been the proper thing to do. But he joined only the Attorney General. So these issues will come up at the Court of Appeal. There are issues that will crop up. It may become ground of appeal. And if it becomes ground of appeal, of course, the man who came to court has the right to say, no, I did not challenge the act. I only asked for the court to clarify the position of that act with regards to the constitutional provision that he was making reference to. So it is going to be a matter for argument, in which the court will be in a better position to appreciate the defined argument that will actually be elicited from both parties at the Court of Appeal, and of course the Supreme Court, because this matter eventually will end at the Supreme Court. And it makes, as I said earlier, for healthy jurisprudential development, we need to develop our law. We need to know whether the court can nullify an act, because I heard one analyst today on Channels Television saying no, whenever the National Assembly has enacted law, that the court has no right to,
So are you saying when the National Assembly has enacted an act that the court feels is not in consonance with the Constitution, then who is supposed to rectify that?
That is what I'm saying. I'm not in agreement with that view that the young man was expressing, but he's not a lawyer. I heard him loud and clear saying that the court cannot, interfere with the legislative function of the National Assembly in the area of lawmaking. I said no. If the legislators have made a law and that law is at variance with the provisions of the Constitution, the court is actually in a better position to nullify that enactment, because the Constitution itself even says so, that any law you are making that will be at variance with the Constitution will be declared null and void to the extent of its inconsistency. So only saying that these are issues that will crop up. Maybe the National Assembly will come with that idea, the court has no right to interfere in our legislative function. Whatever we say is final, and so whether the court now has such right and all that, all this will be canvassed.
I certainly don't want to believe that. That's not one argument I'll accept at all, that the court, if the National Assembly can make a mistake, they can pass laws that are actually not in consonance with the Constitution, and I think it's a responsibility of the courts to point that out and to address it. But let me ask you this.
Yes.
You had the position of the lower house, that's the House of Representatives. Their argument is that, look, the court was basically, that the law they passed had nothing to do with civil servants, and that what the court, that going by the interpretation of the court judgment, that the judge basically looked at that section of the Constitution now that has to that specifies the period within which well, somebody holding a public office now can actually resign to run for an elective position. I'm talking about, I wouldn't know the section of the Constitution now, but their argument is that, look, in their own case, it talks about political appointees, not civil servants that the Constitution talks about.
Yes, I have read an article written by a lawyer concerning this. And if you also have read my own article, you know, I made reference to the case of Ubani versus Fayomi, where the Court of Appeal held that the political appointees does not fall into the definition of public servant as defined under Section 318 of the 1999 Constitution. In other words, if you're a political appointee, you are not a public servant who ought to resign, even the 30 days. Even the 30 days that has been the practice with political. Yes. Going by that decision of Shegu Oni, I think Shegu Oni versus Fayemi. He says that political appointee does not fall within the definition of public servant that should even resign 30 days or any day at all before election. That's that, and that decision has not been challenged, and that remains the law up to now. So what the National House of Reps is saying, look, if you look at the provision of the Constitution, that you only refer to public servants who are really employed in public service and not political appointees. And as such, their own law was made for political appointees, and so does not in any way conflict with any provision of the Constitution, since the Constitution did not make provision for any resignation for political appointee.
But are political appointees not public servants?
That is what they are saying. And
yes, they may not be civil servants, but they are public servants.
They are not civil servants.
As they are public servants.
That particular Section 318, who ought to resign. And as long as the Constitution has not in any way imposed that resignation clause on them, this law they have made has nothing to do with the provision that dealt with the civil servant. You understand my argument?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, does the Constitution specifically make reference? I mean, did it make reference now to civil servants or public servants?
Now, the interpretation that was given to that section, and hear me well, which has not been overruled, is that political appointees do not fall under the definition of Section 318 as those who ought to resign 30 days before election. You understand me?
Yes.
And so what they're now saying is that if the Constitution itself didn't make any reference to political appointee, it is their own law that has now made reference to them to resign. And so there is no anything at variance with the provision of the Constitution. That's the argument. Very fine argument. And this is the argument that will be canvassed at the Court of Appeal. And I don't know the position what they call that the Court of Appeal will take. It's a very fine argument. So they are saying there is nothing at variance. There is nothing the Constitution has even said concerning political appointee. That this is the first time they are enacting that has asked the public, the political appointees to resign. Either 30 days or before their primary election.
But would this so-called political appointees have the powers to challenge the National Assembly that is denying them their fundamental right as well?
Yeah, well, that again is part of the argument they are saying, look, if you want to make a law, then don't make a law that discriminates against political appointees, because you allow the elected officers like the governors, the legislators to remain in office, be voted for. But you have asked the political appointees to resign. Now, there is an issue which we are not even addressing. That issue is that the governors have actually abused the office of these political appointees for political purposes. They have used them as automatic delegate. You have issue of governors appointing political appointees all over the constituency, all over the ward. They can have up to 3 or 4 appointees, in a ward. And imagine having all manner of appointees from every ward, and they become automatic delegates in every primary election.
But hold on there, please. Let me just ask you this. Now, in this case, is it not the problem of the constitution of the party? Is it not the constitution of the party that should be addressed? Because it is the constitution of the party that actually recognizes these political appointees as statutory delegates. So why not go and amend the constitution of the party and say, look, you know what? We're amending the constitution of the party to say, okay, if we are not removing the issue of statutory delegates completely, we are limiting the numbers that maybe governors and some other people are entitled to. So is it not, shouldn't that be the case? Instead of enacting a law now that becomes the law of the country to prevent some people from taking part in elections, I mean, especially in their own political parties, because whether we like it or not, these political appointees are bona fide members of their political parties.
You are very intelligent. You know, I must tell you that this is the most intelligent aspect of this discussion I've encountered over this section 84, subsection 12. The truth of the matter is that we were trying to avoid an abuse, and we ended up now making some persons now to be thrown out of office, even when their appointer has not indicated intention to throw them out of office. We are now using law to chase them and say, oh, if you want to contest the election, you must resign before you contest the primaries. And I think that what we were trying to avoid was this issue of abuse, which I have just highlighted, that the governors are using their political appointees, you know, to really oppress other members who are contesting for any position, because they appoint all over the place. And by the time they have such political appointees who have become automatic delegates, it actually obviates the need of having democracy entrenched in the political party, especially during the primary. So what do? Is to amend your own internal law, and that is the constitution of the political parties, to say if the governor will have his appointees, this is how many that will be allowed to be delegates in every election. By that, you have solved that problem. Rather than publicly tampering with the Electoral Act and creating this problem that has just been created, where there are certain persons that want to remain in office a certain time, and they have not been removed by the appointer. The appointer is not asking them to go. Remember that the appointer himself is also an elected, officer of the Republic of Nigeria. He has somebody he wants to help him actualize his own objective, and you're asking that person to leave office way ahead of even the general election. So you have also defeated his own intention to carry out his own mandate as an elected officer. So I think that the best way is this suggestion you have just made. Let the political party go to their internal constitution and solve their problem, and not carry their problem and now put into a national law that has just created all the confusion we're having. Yes.
It's really baffling. All right, we'll just wait and see how the whole thing pans out. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for that intellectual input from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, that's how much we can take on the program this week. We thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.